Hello and good morning. Today is April 27th, and welcome to the weekly update for the week of April 27th. I've got some scriptural thoughts I'd like to share with you first off this morning, so I'm going to open up my Bible to Psalm 24. Psalm 24, verse 1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it on the seas and established it on the waters. That's the word of God. Last couple weeks you've been studying about God's creation. Why can we say that God's in charge of everything? Why can we say that God has the whole world in his hands? Well, that's because he's the one who made it. God is the one who made the world, and that's what makes the world his. This week in your religion, you're going to hear about how mankind tried to take some control from God, tried to take some of the world for himself, and how it ended really badly. So when we get worried, when we think that we need to grab something and take control of it, we need to remember that the earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, and everyone in it, including you, including me. God is in charge of all things, and he loves you. Now let's turn to our binder. Go ahead and pause the video, find your binder, pull it out. Now that you've done that, I want you to open it up to the blue tab. We're on blue tab this week. Open up to the blue tab, and the first thing you're going to see is your reading. And the first thing you're going to learn about in reading this week is context clues. What are context clues? Well, remember, when you are reading and you come across a word that you don't know, you've got a few choices. You can look it up in the dictionary, which you might not have a dictionary at your house. So then you use context clues. Here's an example. I was reading a book a while back, and it had a word I was unfamiliar with. It said, castles in the Middle Age had one main purpose. They were built for protection. And I might think, purpose. I think I've heard that word before, but I'm not sure what it means. I don't have a dictionary to look it up, so I'm going to look at some of the context clues. Well, it says castles had one main purpose. Is purpose a tower? Maybe. But then I look, it says they were built for protection. Oh, protection. So purpose must mean that the reason it was built. Maybe purpose and reason are synonyms, and in fact they are. That's how you use context clues. Flip the page. The next page is all about figurative language. There are 4 types of figurative language we're studying this week, and people use figurative language all the time. The first example is a simile. Might say, Mackenzie was as tired looking as a wilted lettuce. Oh, yikes. When I look at my garden in the middle of the 100-degree day that we're going to have today, it's all wilted and melted. Now, is Mackenzie actually a piece of lettuce? No. Simile uses the word like or as to just say she's really tired. The second figurative language is metaphor. Metaphor is just like a simile, but it doesn't use the word like or as. So it might say, Wilbur was a library of information. Wilbur was a library of information. Now, is Wilbur really a library? No, he's a human. So the metaphor is telling me that Wilbur knows a lot. The third type of figurative language we're studying is personification. And that's where you take something that's not a person, a plant, animal, building, and you make it sound like they're a person. So the tree roots slurped up the heavy rain. Now, can a tree slurp? No, humans can, but that is just figurative language for saying the tree soaked in the rain. The fourth type of figurative language is one that you guys like to use a lot. It's called hyperbole. So it might say, our cat ruled the entire household. Now, does a cat really rule over a household? No. But it's a hyperbole. It's way more than is real, the cat gets his way. The cat gets what he wants. That's just what it's saying. You've got a few practice problems about context clues and figurative language. Your next sheet is your grammar and spelling, which this week you're going to write an explanation. An explanation is where you're taking a question and answering it to the fullest length. So you've got two examples. What causes a tsunami? Now, a person could just write the wind. But to write an explanation, they actually had to write 3 paragraphs to explain what a tsunami is. They had to do some research and write it out. The next example said, what causes an earthquake? Well, you could say plates shifting against each other. 1 sentence. No, the example here, the person wrote 4 paragraphs fully explaining everything that causes an earthquake. Now, if you were just to say plate shifting, I know what you're talking about, and you know what you're talking about because we studied that in class. But I want you to pretend you're explaining it to somebody who's never heard of an earthquake before. You have to explain everything. You've got a few practice problems for grammar. Let's flip the page to our spelling. It looks like this. Now in the spelling, it tells you to use the look, say, cover, write method. Here's what it looks like. The first spelling word this week is disturbed. I look at that. Disturbed. Disturbed. I say it out loud. Disturbed. I cover it up. Take my hand, cover it up. I write it down with my hand still covering it. So I'm not looking at the printed word. And then I pick up both my hands and I check. Did I spell it right? Did I get it? Great. If not, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to look. Disturbed. 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 Cover it. Write it down. Check. Did you get it right? That's what the look, say, cover, write, check method is. All right, flip a couple pages to the back of the packet and you see a picture of a tornado. You need to get a lined piece of paper. And on that lined piece of paper, you need to write 2 explanations. The first one, you're writing about what is a tornado. What is a tornado? So write 3 paragraphs. Where am I going to get all this information about tornadoes? Well, the box here has a list of a bunch of facts about tornadoes. Use those facts. Ask an adult in your household what they know about tornadoes. Write that down. If you have access to the internet, which if you're watching this video, you do, look up tornadoes. Write down some facts. Use those facts. Pretend like I've never heard of tornadoes before. And write an explanation, 3 paragraphs. Then on the back side of the lined piece of paper, you're going to write your second explanation. And you get a choice. Look at the very bottom box. You can choose what causes hail, how does snow form, what causes brush fires or wildfires, they're the same thing, what causes rainbows, why do avalanches happen, or what causes the greenhouse effect. Choose one of those, and you're going to have to do research. Ask an adult in your house what they know about one of those. I think a lot of us know about wildfires. It would probably be the easiest one to write about, what causes those. Do some research online. If you've got some books at your house, do those. Write down a bunch of facts, and then write 3 paragraphs fully explaining how those things work. Flip the page. Next, you've got a handwriting sheet. Remember, you've already learned all of your cursive letters. Now you're practicing your print. I know you already know how to write them, but you can always write neater. The next sheet is your history. History, you're studying the ancient Mayas and the ancient Aztecs. We've heard about the Mayas in class. We have not heard about the Aztecs. Unless you're 6th graders, you remember we covered them a little bit last year. What you need to do is you need to type in those websites. The first one is called MayanKids.com. The next one is called Ducksters. Duck, like quack quack, ducksters.com. Again, if you're watching this video, you got internet access, but maybe the adult in your house has to take their phone with them for the day. And you don't have internet access through the day. Maybe you can't get the websites to load because your internet connection's too slow. If that's the case, right at the top, the words could not get internet. Just write that. And then I won't count it against you. But if you can get internet, I do want you to read those websites and write down those pages. The next one is your religion. You're studying about the fall into sin and the promise of a Savior. If you want to hear me tell that story, go to the Backyard Bible playlist and go to the 4th video, which is called Genesis chapter 3. Remember, what I need you to do is I need you to write an answer to each question on these lines here. Even these kind of questions that are usually in class, we say turn and talk to your partner. Write them down, because you can't turn and talk to your partner. I know some of you have classmates whose siblings living in your house, but still write them down. Also, don't forget, quite a few of us forgot last week, on the very last page, you have your Jesus journal. You do need to write your Jesus journal. This week you're going to write an Eden diary. Okay? You're pretending that you're either Adam or Eve. What happened while you were in the garden? Okay? First day is just a regular happy day before the fall into sin. Explain what was your day like. Second day, that was the day that you sinned. You broke God's law. What was that day like? Third day, kicked out of Eden. You're living out in the wild now. What is that day like? Write explanations. All right, now, the next one is your science. Science, you're studying gravity. Okay, that's interesting. We learned a little bit about gravity at the beginning of the year, but now you're going to take the idea of gravity and not just objects falling to your desk or to the floor, but whole planets revolving around stars. That's all using gravity. Now you notice at the very top it says you're going to make a poster. And you'd need a poster board, markers, glue stick, construction paper. I know that you probably don't have that lying around your house. And you can't go to the store to buy those things. So what I want you to do, if you do have a poster board left over from some other project, use that. Great. But if not, go to the very back of the science packet. You notice the back page is blank. Turn that to the side like this and just make a small poster. And if you don't have markers or crayons, just use your pencil to sketch it out the best that you can. Well, you're talking about this Postmates drive and what it's going to be about. Here's what it's going to be about. You are going to read this article about gravity. And then you're going to think of examples in gravity that you can see in your own home or that you might have seen in our classroom. And you're going to choose 6 of them. So, for example, when my pencil rolls off my desk, it falls to the floor. That's an example of gravity. When I jump up, I fall back down. That's an example of gravity. When I toss the ball to my dog, it arches to the ground. That's an example of gravity. When the moon is revolving around the earth, I look up into the sky at sunset and I see the moon. And it's moving around the earth. That's an example of gravity. Choose 6 of them. Some you can think of yourself. Draw pictures of them and label them. Tell me how they are about gravity. You've got some multiple choice questions. Only choose one answer and some vocab. And then on this page, I do need you to explain all of those 6 pictures you drew. Actually write it all out. Everything that's happening. I know some of us, when we got this sheet, we wrote like 2 lines and we're like, hey, that's great. Nope. Fill the whole page with writing. You can do it. Write it completely about everything that's happening. when gravity is working on an object. All right, now if you're a 6th grader, you can skip ahead a minute. If you're a 5th grader, let's look at your math. This week we're talking about percents of a whole number. Percents of a whole number. When am I ever going to use that, Mr. Ivan? Well, every time you get a grade. That's percents of a whole number. I mean, let's look back at your science. Your vocabulary has 10 problems. If you get 7 right, I'd say you got a 70%. 70% of 10, how many did you get right? You got 7 right. I'm going to have a video on the Mr. Ivan's Virtual Lessons playlist later this week showing you how to do that. You've got more practice working with percents of a whole number, and then you're going to end this week with some word problems. Hey, if you're a 6th grader, guess what? You're starting this week very similar. You're also working with percents of a whole number. Harder numbers because you're a 6th grader. But if you need a review, watch the 5th grade lesson this week. Then you're going to be ending your series on collections with a multiple choice quiz. And then you're going to be starting a new series, which is all about a pizza party. That's kind of fun. This week you're going to be working with multiplying fractions and dividing fractions. And I'm going to have a video up on Mr. Ivan's Virtual Lessons explaining how to do those. And then you're going to end this week also with some word problems. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for our morning meeting. Keep up the good work. Thank you for those of you who have been handing in your work. I've got about, you see every Friday now I'm going to be emailing your progress reports. Some of you are holding on to your work and you're going to hand it all in one big binder at one time. That's okay. Some of you are ripping out the pages when you finish it and putting it in the blue mailbox. Even better. Remember, guys, even though we can't meet together in class, we can still learn. And we can still spend our days glorifying God in our thoughts, our words, and our actions. God be with you.